I'm with David Bedein from IsraelBehindTheNews.com. Now, David, what is IsraelBehindTheNews.com?
IsraelBehindTheNews.com is simply our website. It's the website that serves our two agencies, Israel Resource News Agency and the Center for Near East Policy Research. We focus most of our research on the subject of UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency.
And today we're talking about UNRWA and the Palestinian Authority. What is UNRWA? When was it started? And why was it started?
UNRWA was started on December 11th, 1948, with the idea of holding on to the refugees, people who left Israel during the 1948 war, and giving them a temporary home, in a sense, and in 59 refugee camps. The problem is that they've been there ever since. They held out the idea of right of return in a peaceful way to them, and they have transformed it. The UNRWA and the Palestine Liberation Organization and the people who live in UNRWA have transformed that into a slogan for right of return by force of arms. So it's basically become instead of a humanitarian agency, a revolutionary agency to whip up the Arabs to take back their homes from 48, which don't exist.
So even though this happened in 1948, they are still classed as refugees today?
Correct. Even though they became refugees it's anywhere between 500,000 and 700,000 who left in 48. They're still classified as refugees, and not only the unique issue here is not only as refugees, but with the idea that they can go back to where they came from, which is unheard of anywhere in the world.
So the UNRWA is looking after these refugees from the United Nations. Who is funding this?
The UNRWA is funded through 67 donor nations, but there's 12 donor nations that give them the money. Saudi Arabia, Germany, the UK, Qatar, Sweden, Norway, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, Belgium, Holland, and also France.
UNRWA is providing services in the Palestinian Authority, so you're looking at schools and hospitals, and the schools particularly are using the PA curriculum. What's wrong with the PA curriculum?
The 300 schools of UNRWA in Judea, Samaria, Gaza, Jerusalem that use the Palestinian Authority curriculum are using it for a purpose of whipping up the children in a war against Israel. Now, whereas until 2000, when the Palestinian Authority took over the school system, the Israeli government used to check the books. They stopped checking the books. And our agency, the Center for Near East Policy Research, hired a team of professionals, Arabs and Jews, to look at the school books and to examine the schools. And what we found from the 365 school books that they have and the 109 teachers' manuals that they have is they have one theme: right of return by force of arms. It's a theme that's pervasive in all the books, and the concept of killing Jews has appeared as a very sacrosanct value in these school books. There's never been a school system like this. They even have now new poems introduced, which have now become songs about exterminating the Jews once Palestine is liberated.
So what sort of example do you have in the school books?
Well, we're in audio today, so I can't actually show the books on an audio, but I can describe for you, which, by the way, the school books, for full disclosure, we have mounted and posted them on our website, IsraelBehindTheNews.com, so anyone can see them, can look at them, look at the text. We also have a separate website to see the school books in Arabic, but examples are pictures of people who've conducted terrorist operations. The most recent is posted on the books, a terrorist operation from March 1978. Dalal al-Mughrabi, a woman who led a team of terrorists, a gang of terrorists who landed on the beach near Caesarea. She murdered on the spot. She murdered an American tourist, and then she commandeered a bus, murdered 38 people on that bus, 25 adults, 13 children, and she is featured as a hero in these school books, a hero to be emulated, and her picture is distributed by UNRWA in all the schools of late, because now our agency is filming the schoolyards near Bethlehem, near Hebron, and she's the hero. And promoting a murderer as a hero is something that even the Nazis never did.
Have you been able to go into the schools and actually interview the children to find out what they're saying?
The last 10 years, the Center for Near East Policy Research has engaged the services of Arab television crews who have been filming interviews with children, and children with teachers, with administrators of UNRWA, and the results are what they are. You can see the videos of the children at IsraelBehindTheNews.com, and it's very, very serious. The children do not hide what they're being taught. The teachers do not hide what they're teaching, and the school books is one thing, but the issue is that they're being utilized for this criminal purpose is something else.
So UNRWA, which is part of the United Nations, is actually encouraging terrorism.
UNRWA is a facilitator of terrorism in a very direct way. The people responsible are not the United Nations so much as the donor nations. Our agency met with the staff of the Secretary General of the UN 5 times, and they made very clear to us that the people responsible are the donor nations. The money goes directly to UNRWA, not through a UN account, and the people who can be held accountable are the donor nations, especially Germany and the United Kingdom.
Do you have members of Hamas, which is a terror organization, actually working for UNRWA?
We have the Center for Near East Policy Research 20 years ago and have continued to uncover the fact that the unions of the UNRWA workers and UNRWA teachers were taken over in 1999 and continue to be taken over every 3 years in their elections. And as a result of our findings, the Canadian government suspended funding from UNRWA for a period of 4 years, and they were given false information that wasn't the case. However, that is the case. So the union, certainly in Gaza, that's the case of Hamas taking over, but it's pretty bad in Judea, Samaria, and in Jerusalem, where the PLO, which is still a terrorist organization, the Palestine Liberation Organization, dominates in the policies and in the incitement in the schools, and they work for UNRWA.
Are there paramilitary training going on in some of these schools?
One of the issues that the center has been able to document is the paramilitary training taking place, especially in Gaza. And remember, 76% of the people who live in Gaza are living in UNRWA camps, and what they've been doing has been to gather the children for marches in the schools, and then continue on to the fence. The children are marching on the fence, thinking, with the illusion that they are going back to the homes they left in 1948. They have pictures of Ashkelon, Ashdod, Beersheba. With them, they have maps of Beersheba, maps of where their home used to be. And this is what's being taught in their schools. And the teaching has wound up in military activity from the children. The children come with full arms, with real guns, and they've been taught the concept of right of return by force of arms.
Does all the money that the West give actually go to where it's supposed to go?
Today, in the Jerusalem Report, our agency has published a report, which came out today as we're speaking, on the February 10th issue of the Jerusalem Report. It's called the Palestinian Authority Donor Machine, the extent to which the main families of the Palestinian Authority steal the money, and there is no real accountability system or transparency system in UNRWA which allows this to happen. And not only UNRWA, but also in the PA. And it would be encouraging if the donor nations were to pay attention to the humanitarian services that they want to fund for good reason, to see the extent to which it doesn't get there, the extent to which money flows into prostitution, flows into arms smuggling, flows into drug smuggling, car smuggling. The extent to which this happens is amazing. Half of the money, it has to be emphasized, half of the $1.2 billion that UNRWA receives is supposed to go to education. And the quality of education is based on what? Teaching the children revolution, and it's pervasive in all the schools, during the school activities themselves, during the after-school activities, very clear.
Now, we've just commemorated 75 years of the liberation of Auschwitz. Does the Palestinian Authority teach about the Holocaust?
Well, here's the scam. In 2010, the UNRWA put out a memo that they were going to teach about the Holocaust, and they sent a representative coast to coast in the United States looking for concentration camp survivors to interview them and say they were going to use their interviews in the schools, and they also raised money from them. This was very suspicious to me because we immediately found out that this program doesn't exist, and we have a letter from the United Nations of regret that this program was supposed to go into effect and never went into effect, and what happened to the money that these poor concentration camp survivors gave them, there's no accountability.
So really, we can never really see peace when UNRWA are using this curriculum and the West is paying for it.
Not only that, but it's the continuation of the war. There is no conflict in the Middle East, there is a war. And UNRWA plays a very, very strong role in that war, and anyone who talks about a peace process must have a sense of humor.
Do you go out around the world speaking about this?
Yes, our agency has been received very nicely in the Bundestag in Germany, in the Parliament in Sweden, in the Parliament in London, in the Parliament in Canada, and the U.S. Congress. And we welcome the opportunity to present our research, and we're actually looking to raise money to translate we have our material translated in English. We'd like to translate it into the languages of the donor nations, especially into French, German, Italian, Swedish. Very, very important that people get to know this stuff. It's rather unbelievable, and the reason why we started doing the films is because we started translating the school books, examining the new school books in 2000. No one believed it, so that they were being used. So that's why we've been making films of the children as they learn the art of murder. And incidentally, I must say, there's no statement in the school books saying, go murder Jews. That's not the way it works. What you have here are, they learn by example. Pictures of murders appear throughout the school books, and that's one of the ways in which the message gets across very, very clearly. And that's one of the things to pay attention to, so that the perpetuation of the war is one of the foci of UNRWA.
Is the West listening, and have people stopped funding UNRWA?
There was a suspension of funds for a while from 5 donor nations, but when those donor nations their diplomats were overwhelmed with pictures of starving children, and because the UNRWA hired a very slick PR firm to make it look like that if you take money away from UNRWA, you're going to cause people to starve. So it worked. But we'll see what happens, because the cat is out of the bag. There's enough people who know that there's something rotten in UNRWA.
What's your hope for the future?
My hope for the future is based on a very clear situation where the Arab people do want peace and do want reconciliation. And somehow they'll overcome the dictatorial policies of the Palestinian Liberation Organization and UNRWA and overcome that. So I see it because, having lived here for this summer it'll be 50 years, I see wonderful opportunities of reconciliation and dialogue between Jews and Arabs, and one day that's going to affect the political system.
Okay, David, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you can be in touch with us through our website, IsraelBehindTheNews.com. The expression we like to use is, let my people know.